Joining us today for COVID-19 Worldview is Tracey Edwards, who is a small business owner out of Scotland. T, it's so good to see you.
Hi, girl.
How's the weather?
The weather has been phenomenal. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's good.
Like, I've not seen it like this time of year for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sky is blue all the time. It's warm. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, if it hadn't been like this would have been even more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess, so how are things going on your end? How are you guys holding up in Scotland?
So, we've been in lockdown now since the 23rd of March, so 6 weeks. We're expecting an announcement tomorrow with future, but we believe we'll be in lockdown for a further 3 weeks minimum. It's strange here because obviously we are part of the UK. So we have the UK government dictating what's happening, but we also have the Scottish Parliament. So Nicola Sturgeon, our First Minister, tells us what happens in Scotland. So she doesn't always agree with what's happening throughout the whole UK, and she sometimes adds additional restrictions to Scotland. So we're expecting that tomorrow. We're not expecting just to conform with the rest of the UK. So we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, actually, that's probably, she's closer, right, to the situation. So it makes sense for her to kind of modify it to whatever fits, for Scotland, unless it's completely extreme to the, the opposite way that's not protecting the people, right?
Exactly. So our numbers might sound small to some people, but for our country, they're significant. So I think the UK is something like 211,000 confirmed cases with over 31,000 deaths, which is the highest number in Europe, which is frightening. But in Scotland, we've had about 71,000 people tested and confirmed. 57,000 have been negative. So we've got about 13,500 positive cases of COVID, and we've lost just over 1,800 people. So in itself, it probably doesn't sound that the numbers are super high, but for our population, it is. And I think the thing that we have here, and I believe the reason why Nicola Sturgeon does things slightly different, is that our R1 value here is higher than it is in other countries. So we have a lot of highly dense population, and that's where it's getting, it's hitting us harder. So Edinburgh and Glasgow, for example, are two of the biggest places where it's hitting. But we've also got a lot of sparse areas in Scotland, a lot of countryside, a lot of rural locations. So it's difficult for people in those places to understand the problems in the places that are being hit.
Yeah, that's the same thing. That's the same thing in, let's say, with the U.S., right? So Chicago, New York, Californians, those places are being hit hard. But then Iowa, those little Dakotas, just like nothing's happening here. So why are we shutting down the entire country because of what's happening in those saturated areas? Yeah. So what were some of the measures? Were you guys under the lockdown, all that too, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah. So we're still in lockdown. So we had our first confirmed case was a bit later than it was in England. So we're probably not at the same peak or at the same point in the curve as the rest of the UK. But we've been in lockdown, as I say, since the 23rd of March. We are basically allowed to leave the house for a medical issue, to buy essential medical prescription medicine or food. You're allowed 1 hour's exercise a day. And if you have a dog, then you're allowed to walk your dog. But the restrictions got stronger maybe 3 weeks ago, when you're not allowed now. You used to be able to drive the car to a place and go for a walk. Can't do that. Your 1 hour's exercise starts from your house. So yeah, it's been, so there's no no contact with anyone outside of your household. So I haven't seen my son since, haven't actually seen him since the 3rd of January, because we were due to meet up the weekend that we got put into lockdown. He was coming home for the weekend and he's not been allowed to come because he lives in Glasgow and we live in the Scottish borders, so he can't come to our house. If he does, he must stay here for 1 week, and when he goes home he must stay in self-isolation for 2 weeks, as must we. So
Oh my goodness.
it's been intense.
Yeah, that's intense. I mean, I don't think we're that bad. We can leave, we can drive places. We just can't go to the lake, like the places where we used to be able to go gather. So they shut down a lot of the parks and things like that. But I mean, I understand when you come, you have to stay, right? It's because I just read that a lot of the cases that took place outside of New York, like the people that travel from New York, actually took some of those cases with them when they traveled. So
Yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, if you have the virus, you're going to travel with it. So I mean, so how are you? I mean, not being able to see your son, T, how are you coping with that right now? Like what?
So we have FaceTime. Technology is a blessing right now. So we have so tonight, on a Saturday night, we have our full family do a Zoom and we have a quiz night, we have a chat, we FaceTime mum and dad every night because they're over 70, so their restrictions are even tougher. They're supposed to self-isolate for 12 weeks, but they're saying that might even be longer. So we do things like Zoom. We obviously have text. We can call, and we're just making, we're making positive situation of it. We set each other tasks. So you bake this and I'll cook that. Or if we do some doorstep, we have done doorstep deliveries. My friend helps me with shopping because I'm asthmatic. So she'll go into the supermarket, she'll leave some food on my doorstep, and in return, I'll leave cooked food on the doorstep for her to take home. So, we're trying to we can't socialise, but we can still look after each other. And it's been beautiful, Lawton. It really has. Our neighbours, everyone looks out for each other now. That didn't, that had gone.
Have to find the positive things. And I mean, obviously we're friends, so I know you've been cooking a lot. So is that helping you cope with this? Is that some of the things that you're doing?
My gosh. So, I mean, I have traveled every single week for the past 10 years, every week. So I have not traveled now for 8 weeks. That to me is, it's huge. I sleep in my own bed every night, girl. I've not slept in a hotel in 8 weeks. I have my kitchen. I can cook. I'm writing a cookery book just for lockdown. I get to spend time with Megan, she's only 16, so this is massive for her. She struggles a lot more with this than I do, so I can probably say that I love lockdown because it gives me so much positives. It has negative parts, but the positive are outweighing that for me. That's not the same for everyone. I get that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is just kind of like, yeah, I mean, obviously we travel 100% of the time, and I've been home and it feels so good to not have to worry about Monday morning, 6 a.m. getting on a flight. But you're right, like my daughter, she was sitting down eating cereal and I was working and tears just started coming down her face. And I was like, what's wrong, Akalia? She's like, nothing. And I was like, okay, I mean, you're right. And I just allow her to cry and not have to say, oh, you'll be fine, don't worry, none of that. Which is
Just
whatever
go.
comes. Is there anything that, is happening in Scotland that everybody is kind of participating with?
So on a Thursday night, we clap for our carers. So 8 p.m. on a Thursday night, we all go on our doorstep or out into our street and we all clap and thank our NHS. So our health workers, our key workers, all these things. There's a lot of musicians and celebrities being given free online shows. We have Joe Wicks, who does his health and fitness and...
So I'm developing really basic exercise which you can do in a really small area, like a living room, a bedroom, and I've been blown away. 806,000 households tuned in, so you can imagine how many millions of kids just took part in that workout.
it's great because these guys are getting involved with their fans much more, and it's like payback. It's give back time. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot more than ever has been in the past.
Yeah, it does. It feels like even though we're all completely separated, we're trying our best to figure out how to connect. And
Yeah.
people are coming up with all types of, challenges, all types of stuff. And thank God for social media, right?
Oh my gosh, could you imagine, Carl, if we were still on the old hand phone?
Going back to work, like how have you thought about how are you going to process when the time comes to get ready to get back to work? Like, how are you going to?
I don't know. I mean, we've obviously had calls with work. As you say, I'm a small business owner, but I have a day job too. And we've spoke about the office environment, and there's so many changes going to have to be made to our offices to make them socially acceptable now, that it's not going to happen overnight, even if they lift the restrictions of travel, which they've not right now. So I work in London mainly. I can't travel there right now. So I think it's a case of waiting and seeing. I think one thing that this has shown is that travel's not as necessary as people may have thought. The world has not stopped. Projects are still being delivered. I'm blessed that my job is carried on and I've got no problems there. In fact, if anything, I have been super busy compared to before. So I'm just taking that one day at a time, and we'll just see what happens. But I've got no intention in pushing to rush to a huge city that risks of bringing something back home to my family.
So what is the first thing that you're going to do, or, where are you going to go? I mean, I'm hoping, I kind of know where that's going to be, but what's the first thing you're going to do when you get out of lockdown?
I'm going to hug people. I'm going to see my boy. I'm going to hug him so tight. I'm going to hug my parents and just be so thankful that we are actually allowed human contact. I'm a hugger, you know that. I'm a hugger. And that's the one thing that I miss a lot is contact with people. We can speak on here, we can send virtual hugs, but that physical contact is missing. Yeah.
Yeah, actually just seeing you is like, I really miss you and I want to hug you. And it's just like, I know you're away, but it feels a little further because it's like, wow, I really don't know when I'll be able to, see her or give her a hug. So that's kind of, I guess I never really thought about that until just now. So T, are they giving anybody stipend? Like in the US, the government give the people that lost their jobs, I think around $1,200 US. So are they doing any stipends
No, we're not getting a stimulus check, but some people have been what they call furloughed. So the government, I think, are paying 80% of their salary to allow companies to not have to let staff go. And it's up to the company whether that company makes up the 20% difference or not. I know my son has gone on half pay to be able to keep his job, but half pay is better than no pay. So, as a lot of people had to take salary cuts. But again, it means they're still in employment. It's not so good for self-employed people. It's really bad. There's a lot of noise around that right now because there's been no payment to them so far, and there's not going to be until June sometime, which is a long time if you're the breadwinner, because I think obviously the government want to get people back at work.
Yeah, the same thing. They're trying to get people back at work, but I don't even know what that means, right? Because it's like, realistically, are you going back at 10%, 15%, 20%? Like, are they phasing how that's going to work with phasing people in or out to the workforce? That's going to be an interesting challenge, I think.
There's a lot of chat here about making shifts in places where it wouldn't normally be. So, some people work 9 till 5, some people work 12 till 7, just staging the work day to decrease the amount of people that would ever be in an office or a workspace at any one time. But there's a lot of workspaces just are not going to be designed for social distancing. All of our pubs and restaurants are all closed. The only thing, they can stay open to allow for takeaway or delivery, but no one can be in. So, you know, there's a lot of small businesses suffering. But again, the nice thing is there's a lot of support for small businesses when it comes to things like fruit and vegetables or meat, you know, all these little shops that possibly didn't get the business that they should have got in the past because of big, huge supermarkets are getting a lot of business, and then, in fact, to the point where they can't keep up to the demand. So I just hope, one of the things that I really hope going forward is that people continue to support these small businesses and they don't just run back to the supermarket again, you know?
Actually, just on that note, it's like, what is something that, not just our shopping patterns or whatever, is there something that you're going to do, continue doing now that you're doing in lockdown, that you'll continue to do even post lockdown?
I think the communication with our family and friends, okay, it might not be so, you know, it might not be social, but just being able to communicate more regularly and keeping in touch with people, but definitely communicating with, you know, you think you're a good friend and you think you keep in touch, but do we really?
You know what? You're absolutely right. I'm thinking like, I think social media too, it's weird, right? It kind of makes you feel like you're still in touch. Because like, I haven't talked to Adam in so long, even on WhatsApp, but I see what he's posting. But it's like, no, I still need to reach out, you know, and still talk to that person. Oh, this is good, T. It's so good to see you. So are you really going to dye your hair? Like,
yeah. I've got the stuff. It arrived this morning.
I can't wait to see it.
I did this thing yesterday. I really want to dye my hair pink, should I? And I have never had so many comments on a post on Facebook. It was every single person was, do it, do it, do it. And the amount of girlfriends who have messaged me and said, oh my goodness, I so want to do this, but I'll wait and see how yours turns out first.
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, you go first, T.
Anyways, thank you, T. It's so good to see you. You know, I know we're all learning from this, and for an intense schedule like the both of us have, it's good to be able to just wind things down a bit and spend some time with our families. But I miss you, and I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely, miss you too, and we'll definitely see each other soon.
Yeah, thank you.